So what is up, amigos? Hope you're doing awesome. As someone who has lived, breathed, and waited patiently for every Mission Impossible release, I wanted The Final Reckoning to be everything. Not just a good film, but the film. The closing chapter that would burn itself into our memories like that classic fuse igniting at the start of every MI intro. And while the movie is bold, emotional, and technically brilliant in many ways, I walked out not disappointed, but strangely unsatisfied. Because when you've had Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation, Fallout, and Dead Reckoning Part 1, you know what cinematic adrenaline feels like. And this time, it didn't fully hit the same way. But here's what it did hit, and it hit hard: Tom Cruise. Let's take a second to just appreciate what this man has done. At 62, he's not just acting, he's risking his life for the love of cinema, still doing his own stunts, still hanging off moving planes, diving into frozen oceans, and sprinting across rooftops with more energy than actors half his age. The world is in awe of him. From critics to fans to directors, everyone agrees. Tom Cruise is a one-man industry. He doesn't phone it in, he delivers. And in The Final Reckoning, he gives his body, soul, and heart to this role. There are no complaints about Cruise, none. If the film falls short, it's never because of him. Now, before I start this review, a quick, sincere, and a humble request. Please support the channel by becoming a member or sending a one-time super thanks, or even just subscribing would be enough. You could also follow me on Instagram and X. The handles are somewhere below. I don't have any sponsors or paid partnerships, so you, my amigos, are my only support system, so please. Now, coming back to the review, let's start by rewinding a bit. Dead Reckoning Part 1 set the stage for this final chapter with a complex web of deception, loss, and technological terror. It opened with the Russian submarine Sevastopol being sunk by an AI-generated illusion. That AI, later named the Entity, had begun its journey towards self-awareness, threatening global systems. Now, Ethan Hunt was tasked with recovering two halves of the cruciform key that could unblock the Entity's source code, and in the process, he reunited with Ilsa Faust, only for her to tragically fall later at the hands of Gabriel, a man from Ethan's mysterious past, now acting as the Entity's loyal servant. The film introduced Grace, a thief caught in the crossfire who gradually found herself walking down the same path as Ethan once did, towards becoming an IMF agent. It ended with a cliffhanger: Ethan recovering the key, the team splintering under the pressure of betrayal, loss, and AI manipulation, and the world unknowingly teetering at the edge of an invisible war. And now, The Final Reckoning picks up right where we left off. Ethan, now more alone than ever, rescues Paris, the wounded former assassin who knows where the truth lies. At the bottom of the sea, where the wreckage of the Sevastopol hides the Entity's source code. Alongside Paris is Degas, a former government agent now questioning his loyalties. Grace, now officially an IMF agent, joins Ethan on his journey that's as much about saving the world as it is about saving what's left of himself too. Gabriel is ahead of them at every turn. He unleashes the full psychological and technological terror of the Entity, including a haunting sequence where the AI speaks directly to Ethan, offering him two choices: retrieve the source code and risk his team's death, or do nothing and let the world fall under its control. Now, the action shifts across London, the Arctic, and deep into the Bering Sea. The plan: to dive into the sunken Sevastopol and retrieve the source code before Gabriel or before any world government gets to it, because if it lands in the wrong hands, whether Gabriel's or even the US president's inner circle, it could mean the end of free will itself. The movie makes it clear: this isn't just another mission, it's a moral reckoning about control, sacrifice, and the value of trust in a world ruled by information. This film hits harder on the emotional front. Luther, played beautifully one last time by Ving Rhames, is locked in a room with a bomb by Gabriel and chooses to die so the mission can go on. His death is a moment of heartbreak that gives Ethan's final mission its emotional spine. Grace becomes a fully realized agent, no longer a wild card, but someone Ethan trusts tracks completely. There's also a bold reveal. Briggs, the relentless CIA pursuer from the previous film, is the son of Jim Phelps, the original traitor from Mission Impossible 1 in 1996. This adds a layer of poetic irony, tying the final chapter to where it all began. The film's core tension is not about gadgets or countdowns, it's about conviction, about what happens when power, even in the form of data, becomes too powerful to be trusted with anyone. And now to the part where I have to be honest as a fan. The action and the final reckoning is good, but it's not great. It's thrilling, yes, technically sound, of course, but compared to the mind-bending tension of the previous films, it feels a step down. There's no sequence here that matches the edge-of-the-seat brilliance of Ghost Protocol's Burj Khalifa climb, the bike chase from Rogue Nation, the brutal helicopter pursuit in Fallout, or even the airport heist from Dead Reckoning Part 1. The underwater dive into Sevastopol had all the potential to be unforgettable, and while it is beautiful and suspenseful, it lacked that gasp-out-loud feeling we've come to expect from MI films. The choreography is more subdued, and that may have been intentional. After all, Ethan is aging, but as a finale, it needed that one jaw-dropping set piece. Instead, what we get is consistent action, solid, never dull, but not pulse-pounding. Even the last action set piece in the air feels genuine, looks the effort, but doesn't really push you to the edge of your seat in its visualization. Something was amiss. Now, Christopher McQuarrie once again does a commendable job. The narrative is tightly woven, except a few dragged-out moments in the first half. The visuals are striking and the emotional arcs sincere. The philosophical undertone, man versus machine, choice versus control, is strong, but it also comes at the cost of suspense. Where earlier films layered their plots with betrayals, tension, and the clever misdirections, the final reckoning simplifies. Maybe deliberately so, maybe to focus on the characters and their ideologies, but that trade-off won't land equally for all audiences, at least not for me. Even the funny, humorous banter that you come to expect usually between the team members, especially Benji and the rest of the team, is too few and too far in between. Benji has more serious undertones at times than other operators. For those expecting another masterclass in spy suspense, you may feel shortchanged, but for those seeking closure and heart, you'll find it. Now, if this truly is the end, I mean the actual end of Ethan Hunt's saga, yes, there is a final voiceover and a one in the beginning in the iconic baritone voice of Luther. Yes, there are montages that attempt to wrap it all up. Ethan ponders about life, about how our lives are defined not by what happens to us, but by the choices we make, and visually, it's meant to be a tribute, but somehow it doesn't feel natural in the flow of the screenplay. It comes off a little forced, like something inserted to create closure rather than earned through the emotional arc of the story itself. And yet, despite that, there is no denying one truth. Tom Cruise gave this film everything he had. Physically, emotionally, spiritually, this wasn't a half-baked farewell from an actor on the way out. This was a full-body sprint to the finish line. If the final reckoning didn't completely land for me, it wasn't because Cruise didn't try hard enough. It's because the storytelling around him couldn't quite match the standard he's continued to set for 3 decades. So Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning is a solid film, well acted, well made, and rich in ambition. Tom Cruise once again proves why he's a league above the rest. But it's not the franchise's peak, and it doesn't quite deliver the send-off that its legacy deserved. Maybe the bar was set too high, or maybe some part of me just isn't ready to say goodbye yet. If you watched the film, drop your thoughts in the comments, whether you loved it, felt underwhelmed, or just want to talk about your favorite Ethan Hunt moment over the years. Has this film truly closed the chapter for you? Or like me, do you believe there's still one more mission left somewhere, someday, because Ethan Hunt is still very much alive? And while we debate that, let's not forget what this franchise has given us. Not just the stunts or the thrills, but consistency, craft, commitment. In a world of lazy sequels and soulless cash grabs, Mission Impossible stood for something greater. It stood for belief in storytelling, in cinema, and most of all, in one man's willingness to give his everything for the big screen. Tom Cruise didn't just carry this franchise, he protected it. He earned our trust. He entertained us without shortcuts, and no matter what we felt about this final film, we owe him something rare in today's cinematic culture: our respect. So if this truly is the last time we see Ethan Hunt running towards the impossible, then thank you. for the ride, for the rush, and the heart. Like, share, and subscribe if you've been on this ride too for all these years, sticking with Ethan Hunt and believing in the IMF, Impossible Mission Force. Take care, stay awesome, and as always, this message will self-destruct in 5 seconds. Bye-bye.